What do most Fortune 500 executives have in common? They learned important lessons on the fields and courts of their high school and collegiate sports teams. This is true for both men and women. Ernst & Young found that a whopping 94% of women holding a C-suite position played sports. Their wins and losses shaped their habits and who they would become. Join me on my journey to sit with some of the brightest executives in the world as we discuss how sports shape their professional trajectory. In partnership with Chief Executive Magazine, the voice of America's CEO community. I'm your host, Don Yeager, and this is Corporate Competitor Podcast. With me for today's episode is Stephen Jermyn, Vice President of the Commercial Solutions Group at Alliance Technology. His team partners with Fortune 500 companies and government organizations to help navigate through a sea of product offerings in cloud computing and cybersecurity. There are some people in life that you meet and you know you're going to be friends with forever. I'd love to say that about Stephen, but I can really say that about his mother. His mom is awesome. Stephen played football and baseball and then basketball collegiately, and I knew he would be the perfect person to interview today.
If you have to rely on the refs to win a game for you, you've already lost. That truly taught me we are accountable. Every game it's on us. So from a business perspective, understanding how important it is what you do, not whoever you're competing against, it's on you, and care. It's so important to care. And that's when it comes to leadership, anything you ask your people to do, you have to care for your people and you have to hold everyone, including yourself, accountable.
Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I've been waiting for this opportunity to have fun and learn from you. Looking back into your sporting career and realizing how much you love hoops, you love it like I do. You started playing basketball as a young guy because your two older brothers loved the game. What did playing against bigger, maybe more talented guys teach you as a young athlete and as even a young competitor?
Well, I think the first thing it taught me was toughness. You know, my two older brothers are much bigger than me and took no mercy on me, which was great for me. And I learned to be able to also shoot the ball way up over top because they were considerably taller than me. And just overall to compete, I mean, everything we did was to 10 or who can score first, or if we were playing goal line, which we used to call Dick Buckus. When I started playing high school football, there wasn't ever a hit I took that I thought, well, that really hurt. I'm like, my brothers hit me way harder than that. My brothers took no mercy on me. So this is easy.
That's awesome. And then you went to Oswego High School in New York. There you played three sports. Love it. Baseball, football, basketball. On the basketball court, your brothers beating you up did a pretty good job because you set the record for most points in a season and highest career field goal percentage. Mm-hmm. On the football field as a quarterback, you led the league in completions and passed for more than 1,000 yards both your junior and senior years. In 2015, you were inducted into the school's Hall of Fame. Now, it sounds like there were a lot of great memories there in that window, but give me the moment, the most memorable moment of that high school playing career.
Playing football against Baldwinsville, we were down by 1, balls on the 3-yard line. I think it was the 4th down. And I threw an interception and we lost. It was clearly my fault. I just still, to this day, can't believe that I did that. It's burned in my memory forever. And why didn't we run it? Why didn't I call a timeout? Why didn't we kick? We had so many options and I was young. I did the best I could at the time. I just didn't have the presence to think that, wow, I should call a timeout or I should run it. It's a pattern we had run so many times. I just didn't make a great throw and the kid took it out of the end zone. Pretty much the game was over. That was a disheartening loss that I'll never forget.
How do you get over that? How do you get past that?
You just have to. When you're the leader of the team, you just come back to practice and work harder and get better at it. And I had a father growing up, Don, that unfortunately I lost 3 years ago. He would never let us mope around or it wouldn't be okay with him to self-absorb that you did something wrong. Life was about just moving on and getting better. So I was upset that night. And then the sun came up the next day and we moved on.
Love it. That's key, right? You have to own it, move on.
Yeah. As much as that's a negative memory, the positive memory was the league we played in. We played against some large teams in Syracuse, and Liverpool was, I couldn't call it a rival because they were a school of 4,000 kids and we were about 900, and they were really good. My junior year, we beat them on a Monday in baseball to get into the playoffs. So we come walking in the locker room on Tuesday. Coach Curley is standing there, baseball in his hand, and he's tossing it up in the air. He says, "Jermyn, come on in here." And, you usually get called in the coach's office. I'm thinking, there's so many things I've done wrong. Just over the weekend, who knows what I could be getting in trouble for. He looked at me, said, "Guess who we play on Thursday?" I don't know. We play Liverpool. And he threw the ball at me. He goes, "Go get him." And he put it on me to go after him. And man,
that's awesome.
I ran barefoot to Liverpool to play them. And we went up there and beat them in Liverpool 6-3. I threw a pretty good game. My teammates played great, but it was the best win. I was so fired up. And they had a couple kids. They had one kid that played in the major leagues. They had a kid who played linebacker at Michigan. They had great athletes at that school. We beat them twice in 1 week, and I'll never forget that.
Isn't that fun? So it wasn't some long, drawn-out speech. It was just, here's what I want you to do.
Just go do it.
Just go do it.
It was awesome.
I love that. In basketball, you had a great coach, Bill Farden, and I know he had tremendous impact on you. You said he wasn't just a great coach, but he taught you about being a great person, a great man. Tell me about a lesson you learned from Coach Farden and how you apply that lesson today.
So when I was a senior, you're going through that whole concept of where you're going to go to play sports in college, because both my two older brothers played. So I knew I wanted to. And when you're young and it's a big decision, I was getting recruited for some football schools. I was getting recruited for basketball, and you're trying to work it all out in your mind. Coach Farden was the one person outside of my family who really sat me down, literally took a white sheet of paper, drew a pond and a small fish, and then a big fish in a small pond. And he explained that concept to me and said, "Stephen, what do you want your college career to look like? What do you want to go do?" And I sat and thought about it, and it just totally relaxed me. It just made me understand that I was okay to make this decision about where I wanted to go play and what I wanted to go do. And the fact that he cared about me so much. The people that I lead now, I really try to understand who they are, know them, know their families, know their spouses, know their husbands, just care about how they're doing, especially when, in the middle of COVID. It's been really important to lead by example and to make sure that my people are all okay and that their families are okay. It's okay to talk about that. And it's okay to talk about if you're having a hard time.
It's okay to talk about not being okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. What really made him such an influence on you was that willingness, not just to teach you how to put a ball through a hoop, but to show you that real leadership is about caring for others.
Yes.
Even today, you express some of that through your mentorship program that you do. And tell me real quickly a little about that and how what you learned from Coach maybe impacts you there.
So what Coach Farden taught me about caring and giving back, I try to use with the junior achievement and also the early college cybersecurity program for Howard County. I bring in 80 students at a time, 3 or 4 times a year, and have a 3-hour session with them, which is really, I'm incredibly fortunate to get that kind of time with them. But it starts with me teaching them how to shake their hand properly. It's a skill that young people, a lot of them don't have. It's about looking someone in the eye and shaking their hand. So I shake all 80 hands on the way in and all 80 hands on the way out. They get pretty good at it. We talk about competition. Life is a competitive situation, and they're going to learn to compete to get into college, to get their first jobs, all kinds of different things. I explain who Alliance is and our cybersecurity practice and what we do in that field. And most of these young people are sophomores and juniors, so they're working on either being engineers or salespeople in the cybersecurity field. So it works well for them. And then finally, we talk about one of your favorite topics, John Wooden, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. The importance of you'll never outgrow your inner circle. Because I'm not a teacher, I can be a little rough on the kids in terms of saying, look, if you hang out with losers, you're going to become a loser. So the importance of making sure that you're hanging out with young people that have aspirations to go to college, to be better, to be good people is really, really important to me.
Absolutely. And there's some greatness in all of that. I love watching Nick Saban teach that to some of his campers at his events as well. So you chose your pond, and your pond ended up being the University of Albany,
Mm-hmm.
where you got a chance to play for a man, Doc Sowers, who was there for 41 seasons, finished his basketball coaching career in 1997 with 702 wins. And in that 41 years, he had one losing season. So give me something you learned from Coach Sowers that you still think about all these years later.
Take time just to think.
Mm.
His attention to detail was incredible. His competitiveness, every drill we did was incredibly competitive. But when I really stop and think about Doc, I can see him sitting there with this little metal board with these 5 magnets, and one magnet's a basketball. And we could be on the bus. You'd walk into the locker room, you'd walk into the training room, his office. He'd be sitting there moving these pieces around, grinding and just thinking. I've never seen anyone just quietly think by himself like that. I'd be like, Doc, what are we working on? He's like, we got to get the ball in the post better. He'd have something, he'd be grinding, moving these magnets around. And, we're also busy with email and texting, but how often do you stop and think and spend time thinking about what do you want to accomplish? I try to do that now. I try to take time to think, where do I want my teams to go?
Really valuable.
Yeah. So I'll literally make a meeting invite to myself, turn my phone off or down, turn my laptop around, and I will just sit and I will just plan with literally a white sheet of paper and a pen, or work on a whiteboard. And I will just consciously think about where we're at and what do I need to do, and write down my thoughts, take your thoughts and turn them into actions. But I think it's important to take time away from your email, text, phone calls, television, whatever it is that can be distracting, and just focus, come up with a game plan. The second critical thing I took away from my time with Doc was learning about accountability and ownership. We happened to be on the road playing up in Hamilton. I was a sophomore. I would play 8 to 10, 12 minutes a game. So I would get good time, but I was not a starter. It was late in the game. We were down by 1, and our point guard went to the basket and absolutely just got hammered right to the ground hard. No call by the refs. We're all looking around. Can't believe that happened. We walk into the locker room, and you can imagine everyone's complaining. Everyone's upset, very upset about the no call. Where was the call? How could that happen? And Doc comes walking in the locker room, and he hears us complaining and yelling and people really angry. And he is furious. We think he's furious about the fact there was no call. He grabs a stat sheet. He starts looking at rebounds the other team got. He starts talking about points the other team got, turnovers we had. And then he starts ripping on guys on the bench that didn't even get in the game, what they could have done better. And we're all sitting there. My eyes are wide open. And Doc says, if you have to rely on the refs to win a game for you, you've already lost. Turns around and he leaves. And I will always remember that moment. That truly taught me we are accountable. Every game it's on us. So from a business perspective, understanding how important it is what you do, not whoever you're competing against. It's what you do, and the effort and the discipline and the planning that you put into a sales campaign, for example. It's on you.
That's right.
When it comes to leadership, anything you ask your people to do, you have to care for your people, and you have to hold everyone, including yourself, accountable. All the teams I ever coach, I tell that story. And look, everyone has some things to say to the ref, but I refuse to let my kids specifically ever blame a ref for a loss. You have to be mentally strong to never do that.
Yeah, what a powerful, and I know how much he grew to mean to you. I mean, so much so that I remember even a few years back, you were working to get the court named after him. Is that right?
Yes, I did. I spent a lot of hours, good hours, in reconnecting with my teammates. The great thing about Doc is he coached for 40 years. So putting it together and reconnecting with 4 decades of players was great. What I transitioned it to was, let's just have a huge party for Doc. We put together this big dinner. We had guest speakers from every decade of his team speak.
That's awesome.
And everyone told just great stories. I think it was just a great night because you got to look around and look. So many ex-players came back, and assistant coaches and scorekeepers and people that were associated with the program. So it was really, really a fun, unique night. And he just deserved it. Probably one of the things I'm most proud that I ever thought of and actually pulled off.
That's awesome. You were chosen as a captain during your time there. Now, I know a lot of different coaches use their captains in different ways, some as sounding boards, others as kind of an on court voice. How did coach use you as captain?
So I was really fortunate to play with some guys who could score. We weren't short on points. And like any team, there was some sensitivity around some players. This is a little strong, but Doc didn't say a lot to me other than yell at me, but he knew I could take it and he knew I would just work harder. I didn't have like big one-on-one sit downs with Doc about where are we at? What are we doing? He did that with other people. I asked him one time and he just said to me, we didn't need it. And I guess I didn't. So I was that guy that if I did something wrong, Doc could tear me apart in front of everyone. And that was okay.
But having a captain or having a leader, that their ability to have that kind of a hard conversation with someone that's obviously well regarded subtly sends a message.
Yes.
It allows others to hear and see that we're not playing favorites here. We're doing what we can to win.
Yeah. For a long time, I was fortunate to play with Doc's son, Stephen. And I would tell Stephen, like, I really think your dad just doesn't like me. And he would laugh. He thought it was funny. And even to this day, I'm still, fortunately, Doc just turned 90. And I talked to his wife a couple of weeks ago on him. And I kid them all the time, like, sure, Doc would want to talk to me. Doc would get on the phone and be like, hey, what are you doing? And I always wants to know if I'm working out. You working out? Still playing?
And you do. I love it. In fact, that really does kind of lead me where I want to go next, which is I know that competitive nature doesn't go away. And I heard an interview that you did on a podcast in which you talked about picking up lacrosse when you were 40 and then swimming when you turned 47 because you love finding new avenues and new challenges. But on top of that, you and I get a chance to go to Coach K's old man basketball camp each year and have in the past. It is an extraordinary opportunity to gather again, play on Cameron Indoor Stadium and have fun. So what's the next competitive venture for Stephen Jermyn?
Well, unfortunately, 2020 was, I had 2 blood clots in 2020. So that slowed me down to, when I looked at my phone and my first accomplishment was to go out and walk for 10 minutes, I thought, wow, I've really hit a new low here. But, when something happens to you and you have to call 911 on yourself, something significant has happened. So unfortunately, that happened to me, but I'm bouncing back. Today was my first morning working out. I've been cleared. I jumped on the Peloton. I lifted some. I feel pretty good. So I think 2 things. I think I'd like to do a Tough Mudder, and I think I might want to try to go back to Duke. If I can get myself back to a place where I go to Duke and play at a level that I'd want to play at, then we might have to go make that journey together.
Awesome. I love it. So for those listeners who might not appreciate this, yes, we have been teammates and I would look forward to getting a chance to run out there and hit a jump shot or 2 with you again. But I also know in addition to playing, you're also coaching some, but the coaching is actually with young people, young teams, right?
Mhm.
Your daughter and others, and basketball, lacrosse, football. What have you learned while coaching, even in this little space that maybe is somewhat different than what you learned competing?
Boy, I've coached as young as 7 and 8, all the way up kind of through high school, rec basketball and different things. And I really try to have fun with the kids. I want them to love the sport. I'm very upfront with the parents saying, look, I want our team to be number one in terms of having fun for the season. That's my goal. We're going to do fundamentals. We're going to compete as hard as I can push these kids, but we're going to have fun. We are going to lead the league in fun. I have a blast doing it. I love it. I would consider it full time if I could ever make it work out.
We're going to lead the league in fun. I love it. That's awesome. And again, what an important part that is of a business strategy as well. If all we're focused on and all we ever do is try to achieve one more dollar at the end of the next quarter, and again, we should all want to have that. But if it's just a miserable event and it's just constantly grind, 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 if there's never any fun, we're not really going to have a great team around us.
No, you have to find fun. I try to put fun into everything I do every day. I had my team meeting this morning and we were talking about all kinds of things, sports, kids, what'd you do this weekend? And, stories come out of things that happen. And I mean, you have to stay disciplined to the things you need to accomplish, but having fun, smiling, whether we're in person or over meetings like this, I love seeing people smile.
Absolutely.
How many meetings have been in there boring and dull? And I never want that to be one of my meetings. So I try to bring some excitement, some enthusiasm, kid people. And it's not all fun. I asked everyone today, everyone's going to email me today, what's something you've done in the past year that makes you feel alive?
Mm.
And they're thinking about it. You don't have to email me quick, but I want to know what's something you've done that made you feel alive.
Give me something you've done in the last year that's made you feel alive.
Today, I was fired up for today. Big day for me. I got to work out first time since July 4th. I get to speak to you, which is huge. I'm incredibly humbled to be asked by you to do this. So, man, the eyes woke up 5:30. I was 2 feet, barely hit the ground. I was like, boom, I was gone.
We'll be back after this.
Your business phone service should not be complicated to set up, manage, and use. Nextiva connects your phone system with business apps, AI, and automation on a single platform to run your business. With their easy-to-use dashboard, you will be able to connect with your team and customers all in one place. Nextiva, powering communication across the Pac-12 and now the Corporate Competitor Podcast.
Congratulations to AT&T veteran Xavier Williams on his new role as CEO of American Virtual Cloud Technologies. In episode 9, Xavier uses his college basketball experience to teach how you can regularly condition your mind.
Welcome back to Corporate Competitor Podcast. The premise of this podcast generally is this theme that one of the most common characteristics among leaders in the world of business is that they have a history having played sports. Do you agree with that premise that having played sports is proved advantageous to you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think people that play sports are driven for themselves. They're driven to reach goals. They're all about learning and competing and improving. The athlete has that natural ability to try very hard, succeed or fail, take criticism, and then get better. We are not made up of just athletes, but I would say the people that work here all have a good competitive fire to them.
Yeah. And athletics is just one way to express that competitive fire. No question. You know, we've talked a little bit about some of these lessons, and one of them I heard you express in an interview you did was if you're going to be great in life, every day you have to do something hard. Love this quote. I know this morning, having not worked out since July 4th, what you got up and did this morning was hard. But give me some other examples. What are some hard things you've gotten up to do in the last week?
Look, sometimes what's hard is concentrating about learning new things and staying focused and truly learning it so that you can articulate it from a sales perspective. We're always learning new technology. So I can't ask my salespeople to be really good at these skills unless I learn it myself. And in this day of everything is over Zoom, focusing, making sure you are locked in is really important.
Yeah. And that's not always easy, because what I love about that, right, is that that's very intentional. You're creating that focus and you're coming up with things that you can work on that better you and those around you.
Yeah, I guess, again, it goes back to sitting and thinking, how do I get better? How do I improve? How do I improve my team? How do I improve my relationship with my wife? How do I improve my relationship with my kids? How do I make sure my brothers are doing fine? My friends are doing fine.
Your mom, don't leave your mom out.
My mom, oh yeah, I love that woman.
Love your mom.
I just bought her a GrandPad, which is this iPad-like device that you can now call her and FaceTime her. It's fantastic. She can barely work it, but that,
Is it really marketed as a GrandPad?
it's called GrandPad. It's awesome.
My gosh.
My little 88-year-old Polish mother now makes these phone calls. All of a sudden her face shows up. It's great. It's so much fun. I went up there 2 weeks ago and set it up, and she has no internet, which is the best part. So it works without the internet.
Oh, that's great.
No checkbook, no internet. It's awesome.
That's awesome. I want to ask you about teams. Many people in the corporate world use that word team all the time.
Mhm.
Oh, well, my team and I, or I'm going to thank my team. But the truth is, they're not a team. We know they're no more connected to each other than us and the man on the moon. The bottom line is that there are things that are woven into the fabric of a team. When you think about building your team, what are the elements that take a group from a collection of individuals and actually coalesce them and drive them together as a team?
Well, I think it starts with a common goal. Even though all my sales reps have individual goals that they're trying to accomplish, we still have to have a common goal that we run after. And also making sure you sow the idea, interweave it into each one of them So what they're doing individually helps us reach the common goal of the team is really important.
They have to be able to see how what they're doing impacts that common goal.
Yes. And you have to communicate it and hold them accountable to it. Talk about it. And when you reach that goal, celebrate it.
Yeah.
Celebrate it in a big way as best you can. There's the Winston Churchill quote where he says you should be as loud with compliment as you are with complaint, which is a great statement. Well, I try to flip it around. And when we have success as a team, I try to be very loud about the compliment part, way more than I would be if we didn't make the goal. Human nature is people don't reach a goal or have a defeat and they get upset for some time and they grind on it and it bothers them for 2 or 3 days and it takes them out of being the player or the teammate they can be. So I think it's important when we do reach these goals that we set, that we celebrate it and we talk about it, and I bring it up with them and I make them talk about it. When you have something good happen, when you win a big deal, do you let that fuel you for 2 or 3 days? Are you as loud with your own compliment as you would be with your own complaint? It's a mindset I try to have because it's easy to lose and get upset for 3 or 4 days. We celebrate it together as a team, and then we go on to the next one.
Yep. Love it. And I know that there at Alliance, you have the chance to lead their sales team today. You do some pretty amazing things collectively, especially at national sales meetings. And you use that bonding time as an opportunity to help scale, to ensure that everyone stays on that same page and every oar is in the water. Tell me about that, how you use those meetings, which are sometimes really uber boring, but to become part of creating the fabric that is your team.
So in the past week, as you know, Don, you've spoken a number of times at our national sales meeting. We're doing it virtually this week on the 24th and 25th. And the other day I was in the office and I had this idea that I would send out everyone these really nice Alliance logo blankets and jackets and the agenda. I got it all shipped to the office, and then it started to dawn on me that I got to get this out to everybody. Well, I take on this meeting myself. I try not to ask for much help from other people because I want my people out doing, what they're supposed to be doing with our customers. When you have to build a box, 117 of them, it's not a fast process. I was there till almost 10 o'clock that night getting these ready to go out. It takes a long time to do this and also do my normal job. So sometimes you put hard work in when you don't expect to. I have really had to a few times take a deep breath and focus on some technology meetings we were having, learning some new solutions, because I can't ask my people to do something that I'm not capable or willing to do myself. So focusing to learn this technology when I have a lot of other things I need to get done to make sure that these meetings go well, it took some hard work. And you never know when the hard work is going to present itself. Obviously in the morning when the alarm clock goes off at 5:30, you realize it's time to go work hard to get yourself physically ready. So that is its own grind. But then there's other times where it just happens. So you never know when it's going to appear. When it does, you have to be willing to engage it, embrace it, and go after it. Just get it done. If it's important to do it, it's important to get it done.
Absolutely. And then it's also equally important that you constantly bring in really great speakers.
I've been really fortunate over the years I brought in a couple that were really good. I brought in this one guy who does an okay job. Name happens to be Don Yeager. Some people might know him.
Brutal.
No, I think this is the 5th or 6th time you've come in. My team loves to hear from you. So I think they resonate with you. And we've also put you in front of our customers for our advisory board, and you've done an awesome job there. So I'm really looking forward to your presentation. It's going to be great.
You're the best. In sports and business, goals matter to us. And I know how important it's been for you and how you all build goal setting as an important piece of who you are and holding yourself accountable piece as well. But how did goal setting in your time as a competitive athlete affect the way you set goals today at Alliance?
I remember this. We would sit in the court and Doc used to hand out these envelopes in a sheet of paper and a pen. And you would set your goals for the season. You would seal the envelope. And then at the end of the season, we'd have another meeting and he'd give you back your envelope and you'd open it up and you'd read it. That had a big impact on me. So from a business perspective, I sit with the reps and I talk to all of them about what their goals are. Most sales companies have a common quota that they hand out to people. I don't believe in quotas. No one accomplishes a quota in life. I don't quota myself to swim a mile. I don't quota myself to go score 10 points down at Duke. That's not how we work. So we set goals. I set individual goals for each person, and then we talk about them. I basically ask them, how are you doing towards your goal, and what can I do to help?
And that structure, what happens when someone isn't coming close to achieving their goals or they underset goals? How do you handle that?
Well, I have some people that are a little hesitant to put bigger goals out there from time to time, so I have to push them. That's okay. And then I have some people that their goals are a little too big, if you will. So I have to sometimes rein them in. But I think the concept of talking about it and setting that goal with them, and then as the year goes on, working towards that with them and asking them the questions, how are you doing? What can I do to help? Where are you? Do we need to have another planning session? I think it matters. Hire the right kind of people that are focused on it and working towards it and care. It's so important to care. And that's one of the things I've taken from my athletic career to the business world. And when I look back on the 2 or 3 great coaches I had, man, did they care?
Yeah.
And they cared about me. That makes the biggest difference in the world.
So I've spent 30 years in journalism asking some of the greatest that I could get my hands on if they can help me by identifying one habit that they believe allowed them to separate themselves from their competitors, one habit that they believe made a big difference. Is there a habit, something you built into your daily life, your daily rituals, your journey, that you believe made a difference for you?
Yeah, I looked at my father's work ethic and his dedication. My father was a control room operator at a nuclear plant. So he didn't have the kind of job he could go catch a little cat nap here and there. We would play a Friday night football game, and he would get out of work around 5, come to my game at 7. We would play, and he'd see me after the game. He'd go home, eat something, and then he'd go into work at 11 because sometimes he worked shift work.
Mm.
So then he'd come home at 8. Then we'd get in the car, and we would drive to see my brother play football in college. Then we'd take him to dinner. Then we would drive home 3 hours, and then he would go into work. Now, I was a kid. I didn't really realize he did that. But when I look back, I'm like, holy cow. And he didn't do it all the time, but he would do it when our schedules worked out that he had to do it so he could see both of us play. The habit that gave me down was just work ethic. I just outwork people. And I love the grind. It's like the Lombardi quote. You have to appreciate the grind. I love the grind of it. I come here every day, work hard, and I love the challenge of growing a business. And we've been really fortunate to hire some great people and grow Alliance. When I got here 12 years ago, there was 30 of us. Now there's 118, and we just keep growing and getting better. And that's really, really exciting to me.
I asked you a question at the beginning about competing against your 2 bigger brothers. Now, you've just referenced the size of Alliance. You're not the biggest, just as you weren't the biggest when you were competing against your brothers. But in that competition with your brothers, you talked about the importance of developing toughness, that your competitor doesn't show you any mercy. Your brothers didn't, but you believed that was good for you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you continue to inspire the team that you have to go out there and fight against bigger opponents and compete against folks that might be just a little bigger in your space?
Well, there's some multi-billion-dollar companies that we compete against, and we've worked really hard to get where we are, that we're just outworking them. I just found this out 2 weeks ago that one of the vendors that we work with, they just had their national sales meeting, and they put up a list of their top 10 resellers across the country. We were in the top 10. In fact, I found out we were number 6. And I'm told that there were a number of executives that were like, hey, who are these people at Alliance? Because we're not some national name. I told that story to all my people, and I'm incredibly proud of that. To me, that's such a great accomplishment. And my natural instinct was, I'm happy we're number 6. We got to get to 3 next year. And then we got to get to 1. I'm not afraid to go against these larger companies. Not at all. I think bring it on. We will do just fine. We will continue to push, but they are companies truly of hundreds and hundreds of salespeople and way larger than us. That fuels me.
I love that competitive spirit. That is exactly what it takes. That's the voice they need to hear from you as leader, to be able to share with them that, you know what, we're not intimidated. I faced bigger opponents in my past, even when I was 7. But the idea that you would do that. Stephen Jermyn, I loved today's call. By the way, I loved the pictures from your high school yearbook. We'll share a few of those, I am sure, before those who might be listening might get a chance to see those on the page. But most importantly, I'm grateful to you for your friendship, for the time that we spent getting to know each other. And I'm grateful that you are a corporate competitor.
Well, Don, thank you for having me on. As I said before, I'm humbled to be on this. Super enjoy our friendship. And I think what you're doing from a podcast perspective is awesome. I hope some things resonate. I think there's something to be learned from sports. If you're fortunate to have great people in your life, which I was and still am today, take the lessons they taught you and you apply them to your work. Take time to stop and think. Take the past experiences you've had, you look towards the future, and you plan. Go after it.
Awesome. Well, buddy, I appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you at Duke.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Be good.
Stevens basketball coach Doc Sowers coached for 41 years with only one losing season. Two things stood out to me about his leadership legacy. One, how much he cared for his players as people first. And two, how he carved out time to sit and think. Our phones, computers, and tablets are flooded with notifications that can distract us from our priorities. This week, I encourage you to be conscious about who and what has your attention. If you could share one habit, one thing you've done consistently that allowed you to separate yourself from your competitors, what would it be? In my 30-year career, 2,500 of the greatest athletes, coaches, and leaders answered that question for me.
This is Don Yeager, who did that that article I was telling you about.
Don, Dave Sims with Coach K. How you doing?
Hey, Don. How you doing, my man? Great, sir.
What they gave to me is what I'm giving to you in my online course, Journey to Greatness. Through engaging storytelling and on-demand videos, you will learn the 16 habits that will jumpstart your personal growth. I will instruct you on how to apply these winning characteristics to your life through custom workbook exercises. We are slashing the price for our podcast listeners. Lifetime access to Journey to Greatness is normally $399, but for our podcast listeners, it will be $49 with the code podcast at checkout. Click the banner on corporatecompetitorpodcast.com to enroll. Thanks for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you left us a rating and a review. We will be rolling out a new episode every Wednesday. To be the first to listen, subscribe to the podcast on our website, corporatecompetitorpodcast.com. Plus, as a thank you gift, you will receive a free chapter from one of my best-selling books on the habits of high-performing teams. Stay in touch by connecting with me on social media at Don Yeager, Yaeger, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until next week, I appreciate you.